Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast that, like baseball, is back and likely a huge waste of your time. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
Hi, everybody.
And this week, we are going to be talking about the last week of spring training. We're going to make some bold predictions for the 2022 Cardinal season, and we're going to talk about some news and notes from around the league. If you have an idea for the opening joke, tweet us at talkaboutbirds. Well, Ben, we made it. We're here.
Holy!
If you're listening to this episode, it's opening. If you're listening to this episode on the day it comes out, it's opening day, baby.
I mean, we're lucky to even be here, I think. Like, there was a point a couple of months ago where baseball things weren't even happening. Players couldn't be talking to organizations. I was crying in the corner of my basement, constantly refreshing Twitter for anything to come down the pike, and here we are. We did it. I did it. It was me.
You did it.
Me and me alone.
Did it. A lot of doom and gloom this offseason.
Yeah.
And I think pretty well warranted. It was pretty bleak there for a little while.
I mean, we had reports. I think Buster Olney said about 75 times over the winter that there is the relationship between the union and the MLB has never been this bad. Not in 1993 and not in lockouts, past. And the vitriol that was being spewed back and forth, and the way that Max Scherzer was talking about about everything. And then you hear the reports that Max Scherzer's being too mean at the negotiation table, and all this stuff. I mean, it really doom and gloom. I think that's where we were, and it wasn't that long ago. It is also, I would like to add, it is insane to me that spring training is already over. We didn't even have that week of like, this is boring. Who are these guys? It was just go, 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 go the entire time.
Yeah, and this is technically, baseball should have started last week. Right. This is with the new schedule that was forced because of the lockout. So ultimately, no regular season games were lost, and we're getting ourselves a handful of extra doubleheaders, full 9-inning doubleheaders, which I think is actually kind of fun. I have wondered.
Yeah, I'm for that.
I have wondered if this is going to result in some more changes to the structure of the season. There are some players who have asked for a shorter spring training, just in general. I'd ultimately be surprised because I think more people prefer the longer spring training than not. But for those who wanted a quicker spring training, we got it this year. And from a fan's perspective, I don't know, because this was also really confusing and frustrating. Every day that there wasn't spring training when there should have been felt horrible. And so this like condensed spring training felt as a symptom of the broader problem, and not like a new take on a previous thing. So maybe it would have felt better if we knew going in that spring training was only going to be around a month, as opposed to the normal like 7-8 weeks that you really get from pitchers and catchers reporting all the way up to opening day. But I mean, I did kind of enjoy that once it was going hard. I could see that still being fun, especially if they finally televise all of the games.
Well,
I could see that being fun,
That is a point, and I will hit that every single time because it is so annoying. You get, everyone's getting excited. You're seeing players getting interviewed on TV and everything like that. And you can't go watch the games. The radio broadcasts are fine. I've already complained about Rick Horton this season. I don't really like listening to Rick Horton. Maybe he will grow on me. But yeah, I think really what it comes down to, I mean, you look at Max Scherzer, he came in and I think he threw 5 or 6 innings on his first start. I think as long as the players have expectations for what they can expect, they'll get ready, whether, if spring training 6 weeks or 2 weeks or anything in between. If they know what to expect, they'll go get in shape. These guys are almost all millionaires. They all have a ton of resources at their disposal. They know what to do, except for the kids pretty much. Yeah, I would be fine with it being shortened. It does, like I was kind of alluding to, like week 4 of normal spring training feels like a slog. I think even for fans, it's how many times can we watch number 96 swing and miss at
Yeah.
some major league pitchers stuff? I find it a bit of a slog, but hey, we've did it. I did it
We,
again. It was me,
you did it.
and here
Now,
we are.
to be fair, Ben, to be consistent with previous episodes, we've made a pretty clear point that not all players are millionaires. In fact, most of them are not.
Sure.
But I see your point. They're professional athletes,
Right.
and they will do what it takes to be prepared for the season. I think we are going to see an impact of the shortened spring training in pitcher usage this early on. We obviously already. The league is aware of that by the expanded rosters in order to allow the team to deal with it. But again, I think it would all be different if we knew spring training had a defined start date. Those guys could get their work in at their normal complexes. Them not being able to even work out at a team gym is more, I think, what has slowed down their progression than like the lack of you know being able to officially report in February as opposed to the
Right.
beginning of March or something like that. But either way, super stoked that it's back. I got my opening day tickets, baby. Kind of went back and forth on whether I was going to go or not, but I can't resist. I'm super excited to go. We're gonna be down section 2 something. I don't want to tell anyone specifically, so you monsters don't find me in the
You
stands.
guys know what Nate looks like now. Go find him.
Yes, come find me. We can share some little buds
That's
together.
what it is. Yes, it'll be a fun thing, not somebody beating you up.
Yeah. You can beat me up
I
if
was
you're
gonna. I
listening.
imagine 99% of the people listening to this can beat you up and probably beat me up as well.
We don't stand a chance.
We are but podcasters. The softest form of human there is.
Yeah, but I'm excited to be back at Bush. I haven't been to a home opener in several years now. I don't think I've been since maybe 2018 was the last home opener I've been to. So I'm excited.
Was it the Pujols start that kind of pushed you over the limit of saying, "Oh, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't," or were you're just feeling it this year?
Well, we did the research bin. We've got a finesse righty on the mound. I'm
Hey,
feeling the matchup. I'm feeling the matchup for Pujols. I'm smelling the dingers. I'm going to.
smelling them?
I'm smelling. I don't know. Yeah, I've enrolled in dinger school. I'm there to see it. I don't know what pushed me over. I mean, part of it, I'm going with my family, and sort of the conversation started, and we all, I think, just kind of momentum to each other into
Sure.
buying tickets.
I
But
mean, luckily, I've been lucky enough to go to St. Louis opening day before too, and it's the best. I haven't gone to a ton of opening days, I guess. I mean, really, only Rockies and Cardinals are the only ones that I can think of right now.
yeah,
And the Rockies event, it's a big deal. It is the of all days, unless the Rockies are in the playoffs, it is like the only time where Denver is actually into baseball. All of downtown gets really, really into it, which is really fun, and everybody's out in the street. And then it dies off on game two.
yeah.
Like even looking at StubHub for Rockies games, like it's like $80 for game one, and on StubHub you can get in on Saturday the game two for like $12, and
To
it's
be
a
fair,
division rival.
okay. So to be fair, the opening day tickets were pretty expensive, but on
Yeah,
Sunday there's still like $10 tickets against the Pirates. So yeah,
there you go.
it'll be more occupied than a Rockies game. It'll still be well attended as Busch Stadium usually is. But yeah, opening day is its own thing. I'm gonna try to get down there early, hang out in Ballpark Village. I'm really excited. Just
Are you
the
going to drink some ice cold Budweisers?
Oh, you know it. I'm gonna find Mike Shannon, carry him around on
He's
my
there
shoulders.
somewhere, right? Yeah, he'll be
He's
at the
got it.
game, I would
Well, I
think.
think yeah. Well, I'm sure he's a part of the ceremony.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm hoping TLR will just abandon his current team and come down to the Cardinal home opener. Um, yeah, there's just something about the festivities of it that make it
Yeah,
a particularly
you nailed it
exciting
already.
game.
The smell of dingers. What else do you
The
need?
smell, I got that. I got a craving for dingers. For every
Between
dinger, I'm going to eat an entire little buds.
That's disgusting. I hope that there's a lot. Also, just a product idea. Write this down. If we ever come out with a candle, a talking about birds candle, it should be the smell of dingers.
The smell of dingers. What does the smell of dingers smell like? Like
I don't know.
what are
You know,
we combining?
like sometimes when baseball players they'll like foul off a pitch and they'll smell their bat because it's got like a little bit of wood burn. Maybe like mix that with some like spilt beer because people are reaching for the ball in the stands and they're
Yeah.
spilling beer. I think that's good, and I don't think we should iterate it on it any more than that. And that was really good for me by me on the first try right there. Then I nailed everything after.
Okay. All right. Sure. I have to say, I don't think I've ever seen a player go and smell their bat.
What? You're not watching baseball, my friend.
Yeah, maybe I need to pay more attention.
Yasiel Puig used to lick his bat when this would happen, but a lot of players will smell it when they'll foul it off, and it'll because the things are the friction. It'll
Yeah,
cause like a little burnt sensation,
I
and
get
players
it.
will smell it. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I remember Puig licking his back. Ugh, Puig licking his bat.
yeah.
I say that 5 times fast. Um,
No.
yeah, this spilled beer and burn wood. Okay, that's it. You know what? You're right. You did nail it in one. We'll do that. Uh, Next time you're at Yankee Candle, put in our promo code hashtag TAB, and they'll bring out our super secret candle for you. Good chat. Let's move on.
That worked out.
Yeah. So we had our last week of spring training. A lot of things were decided. We've got the roster has been finalized. Boy, were we wrong on a lot of things. We'll
Yeah.
talk about that in a minute. But first, let's give a shout out. Harrison Bader, he can buy all the Bader tots he needs now. He is now a wealthy man. He has signed a 2-year contract, just over $10 million, buying out both of his arbitration years. I would have loved for this to be more like a 3 or 4 year deal at the minimum, just get a couple more years of free agency. And that's not off the plate or off the table, but probably it isn't going to happen. Most of the time, once someone has signed something like this, they are going to go to free agency, but you never know. It's not off the table. But either way, good for Bader. He is now has more money than he could ever need. And the Cardinals have some security to some salary, security for a guy who I think we both believe could very well have a monster season when you consider his defensive floor. They lock in avoiding arbitration and just paying the man his money.
Yeah, and I think it makes a lot of sense for Bader. He doesn't have to go through the whole. We were complaining about the whole trial and file
Yeah,
process the other day. Who would want to go through that? Like I imagine going through that with my job, and I would be irate. Not to mention, you have an actual team of lawyers and your agent arguing for and against you. Sounds horrible. So I'm happy for Bader, but yeah, I think the one thing to complain about is why not longer? And I'd be curious to know, is that a Bader thing? Is Bader betting on himself, saying, "Why don't we just lock these up? I'm going to go to free agency. I want to go get paid." Can't blame the guy for that. But I think you can blame the Cardinals front office for not pushing the conversation down extension. I would love to see Bader extended. I'd love to see Tyler O'Neill extended. I think those are two guys. We talked about this the other week. Two guys that you take a chance on. They're so good in the outfield that if their bat plays up a little bit, they're a valuable player. And I think we really are hopeful that Bader's bats are going to or bat is going to take a step forward this year. We saw some flashes of it last year. And Tyler O'Neill, I mean, what's not to like? So I'm
yeah.
very happy that it's done. I'm very happy we don't have to worry about arbitration conversations going forward. But I'd love to see Mo and the DeWallet, open up a little
Open
bit.
up. In the words of Teddy KGB, pay the man his money.
Don't know what that is.
Okay, moving on. It is well, by all accounts, the conversation is happening with Tyler O'Neill.
Yeah.
And O'Neill has given the green light for that conversation to continue through the regular season. Some guys put up that wall. They say, I don't want contract negotiations happening during the regular season, which I get. O'Neill, not one of those guys. So it seems like the Cardinals are making a real effort at that, and that conversation is happening. Whether it happens or not, who's to know? The Bader side, we have zero information on this, or at least I've not seen anything about it as to where this conversation started and how it resulted in just an arbitration buyout. I'm hopeful that they are still able to do something because I think, again, he's at his lowest value right now.
Mhm.
I think we're both projecting pretty big years for him, but there is some risk. He's got some holes in his swing sometimes. He can be pretty inconsistent. Um, and I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe the
I think we love Bader, but you can definitely criticize him. I think you could say that he goes a little too hard, speaking generally. Like,
yeah,
obviously, you want to see guys going max effort, but Bader's actually one of those rare guys where you wish he would pull back a little bit.
yeah,
Sometimes he overthrows, sometimes he overswings, sometimes he overdives. And it's really fun to watch. It's really entertaining. I think obviously as he ages, he'll mature into his game a little bit more. Like you watch Bryce Harper, and he doesn't really dive for balls anymore, but he plays 150 games a year. So
yeah.
I think there's probably a balance that Bader's going to find. But yeah, like I think we're all in agreement. Pay the man, keep him in red. It's really fun having a top 5 center fielder in baseball.
Yeah. Bader, you can still whip your luscious locks around after making a catch. You don't have to have gone full sprint into a belly flop in order to do that. We're all still gonna love it.
Was it last year when he was diving for that ball in center and he missed the ball just slightly and I think he rolled over it and
Yeah.
cracked a rib? Oh my
Yes.
god.
Big ouch.
Appreciate the effort, but
Yeah.
less of that.
Could have done without that.
Could have done without that.
uh, Andre Palante has made the team. What do you think of this guy?
Sure. I mean, there's you hear the Rays folks and you hear Dodgers folks talk about how not only does the bullpen need to have your bullpen aces in it, but different arm angles and different looks are really important. At least that's something that teams who I consider to be good at running a ball club, that's something that they've been focusing on. And my goodness, this guy has a weird arm angle. He is he's like tomahawk over the top type guy. I'm trying to think. There was that pitcher for the Diamondbacks for a while, whose name is just absolutely escaping me right now, and I'll look that up once I'm done blabbering on endlessly. But what I
So
love
we're
his
just never going to get the answer then.
I love that he's got the big over the top, different look. No one on the team throws like that. I think that's a win. And then I think the stuff is going to be great. I mean, seeing people swing at his fastball, which is good, but it is not, Cabrera good or Alex Reyes good. But people swing at it. They're late on that fastball. And what is that slurve over the top breaking ball type thing? That is going to play forever. That will,
Yeah.
as long as he can spin the ball like that, that will be effective. He could throw that pitch 3 times in a row, and I think we'd all say great job.
Great job. Yeah, he's definitely an interesting pitcher, and I think with this extended roster for the first month, it's going to give the Cardinals chances to really look at a bunch of these different relievers, especially with the likely bullpen fifth starter. We're going to be using a lot of guys out of the pen, and I think we're going to learn a lot in this first month about who is truly effective at the major league level and what does our bullpen look like and how do you slot in these different guys and different use cases. So I was pretty excited to see that he made the roster. I was not expecting it.
Josh Colemanter.
Josh Colemanter. Okay.
Do people remember
Yes.
Josh Colemanter? He was a very average pitcher, made better by that weird ass delivery. And not as weird as Palante. Palante looks a lot more athletic. But yeah, that's sorry. I just had to
Yeah.
get that out because I'm sure there were some people that were like, you morons.
Well, they were like that either way, so that wasn't
Well,
helping.
the rest I'm not going to apologize. I'll
Yeah.
apologize for forgetting about Josh
Okay.
Colemanter.
Brendan Donovan, who I was certain based off of how Ollie Marmol was talking about him. Everyone was talking about him. I was certain he was making the big league club. He did not. He was sent down to join everyone else that we thought was making the big league club. Nolan Gorman, Juan Yepez. We didn't think Burleson would, but we thought there was an outside chance. Now Brendan Donovan, all going down to create a pretty stacked AAA team right now, if you ask me. But what do you think of this? I think you also thought he was going to make the club.
Well, yeah, I was pretty sold, even to the point where I was just resigned to the fact that that's not a good thing or a bad thing. I just thought it was happening the way they were talking about it, the way that the club is made up. Obviously, there's been an emphasis on left-handed bats this offseason. He is a left-handed bat, might have a little bit of power, could spell people all over the infield and outfield. So made a lot of sense. Really, what I don't think this is any slight on the players or anything like that. This is the Cardinals thinking, oh my God, we need pitching. We needed a lot of pitching early in the season. We're going to be throwing a lot of arms out there. I think they're hesitant about injuries. We've talked about this. There's a lot of guys who are injury prone in the starting staff, in the bullpen right now. And rather than going, making a balanced bench or anything like that, they are focused solely on pitching. Maybe this will change once the roster's reduced down in size, or maybe it'll change once health proves out and guys are able to stay. Not only in the off the IL, stay off the IL, but in games longer and soak up innings. And, that's going to be really important for Michaelis and Hudson in particular, if I had to pick on two guys. But that's really what I got out of here. I would also just like to take this point to say the Cardinals should get another major league pitcher. I almost don't even care who it is. Go get another major league pitcher, please. It is going to get desperate, and they're either going to falter or have to pay $1.50 on the dollar type trade or something like that. And I really don't like that.
Well, I think they made up their mind quite a while ago on that front. So
Frankie
we'll see.
Montas,
Yeah, I think
John
Frankie Montas
Means.
would be pretty expensive. John Means, yeah, I think he's gonna have a good year with Baltimore with those ballpark changes. So
That might be true, but we know the Orioles can't evaluate talent properly. So why don't we just fleece them? Just take care of that, Mo.
yeah, sure, just fleece them. I mean, to be fair, our entire middle of our order is made up of hitters that we fleeced someone for. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, all right, that's fair. Mo, go fleece someone. Speaking of pitchers, Jack Flaherty is officially on the IL. No surprise there,
Yeah.
but he seems optimistic. Starting a throwing program soon, so maybe that's like making a trade right there, Ben.
I hate that. Um, yeah, I think it's hard to feel about. I don't know how to feel about Jack Flaherty, is I guess what I'm saying. Like he is in unbelievably good shape. He is a freak show athlete, just like unbelievable to watch him do anything on a baseball field. But those things don't add up to being healthy. So
Right.
I think that it's probably a healthy stance for Cardinals fans to take that if we get anything from him this year, that's great. I mean, if he gives us over 100 innings this year, I would say that you should be ecstatic.
Yeah.
And it might not be ace level, but innings from Jack this year are that would be very, very nice. It's hard to feel confident right now for where I'm sitting.
Yeah. I think we all have pitcher injury PTSD too. It's like I can't think of a pitcher injury that we've had on this team uh, on anybody that's been like, oh yeah, it really was just like they're out for a couple weeks and they came back and they were immediately effective again. So
And And I think the part that worries me more is that the time that it happened, he wasn't able to get built up. I really hope he doesn't rush back. As long as they're being pragmatic and slow and thoughtful about returning him, I can retract that doom and gloom thing I said earlier. But I worry. I worry because I think the Cardinals are very confident in themselves right now, and I think that Jack is obviously for many reasons highly 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 motivated to get back in the starting rotation. So
yeah,
hopefully they you know slow roll it and he stays as healthy as possible.
yeah, I agree. So once again, for maybe the eighth year in a row, we're hearing from Cardinal management that Yachty is going to take a step back from catching duties, and the backup will play a bigger role. Uh, what are the odds that this is actually the case, Ben? What do you think? Do we see any difference from in playing time for Yachty, assuming health?
Are you asking if I'm buying or selling this narrative?
You buying or selling the narrative?
I'm buying it. I believe it. I think that what I've gathered from early spring training and the conversations that are happening around all of this is that Marmal is a very good communicator and he can set expectations and he doesn't seem to really he seems to be very direct. What kind of makes me think that is the way that Pujols has kind of talked about everything. Like if there was ever a superstar, it's Albert Pujols, especially in Cardinal Red. But the fact that he's being very humble, he's saying they're going to use me how they're going to use me. I'm going to do everything I can do to make this team better. I think that I think that Marmal is the guy to ask Yachty. It's not about you playing as many games as possible. It's about you being as fresh and effective as possible. And it's
Yeah,
just a fact of the matter that when you can't play like you could play when you're 28, when you're 38.
yeah,
That's just a fact. You can be any type of world beating amazing player. You just slow down. And I think that, we're talking about some of those teams that we should be envious of, the Rays and the Dodgers. They're very intent on giving guys rest and putting them in the right position. I call out the Giants for that as well. I mean, a big part of the Giants' success last year was giving guys time off, having guys just take one at bat, taking the rest of the day off, really being thoughtful about how to use those guys. And Yachty can offer value on the bench too. I don't like the idea of Yachty taking some starts at DH. I really hope that it doesn't happen, although I understand how hard headed he is, and that might just be Ali Marmol playing a little bit of, you give me one, I give you one type of thing.
sure.
But I'm buying it for now. Obviously, I've been proven wrong before, um, and I think hopefully we see what Kinzer can actually do.
Yeah. I mean, he's now what, third in a row of well-regarded catching prospects that the Cardinals have had, that at least two, going Carson Kelly and then Kisner, and then obviously now we have Herrera in the minors, who Kisner has, like Kelly, has gotten very little chance to actually show what he can do other than maybe once a week. So I'm excited for Kisner to get a chance to play a little bit more. I'm willing to buy it for the same reasons that you've already said. And I also heard, I think it was Marmal said at one point, Yachty can play first base also. And I just truly do not understand that. I think you might be right that they're just trying to make Yachty feel a little better, while when the news is about Yachty playing less, I'm sure a guy who is known for playing a lot, that just doesn't feel good. So we'll
Yeah.
see. I mean, last year it was obvious he was really good at the beginning of the year at the plate, and by the end, he was arguably the worst bat in the lineup. So
Well,
uh, keeping
he
him
sh-
fresh.
he showed up with a new approach, and I'm curious if that approach can kind of sustain itself with rest, with adequate rest, and putting him in against guys it makes sense to put him in. Don't put him in against the guy that's throwing 95 plus all day.
Right.
Give the kid an opportunity there. And also, if there's one thing that Yachty is good at is coming off the bench or just situational hitting, there's going to be opportunities like that where it makes sense to put in Yachty over Kinzer. If you got a guy on second and you just need one run, Yachty still has the bat control to make sense right there and do some good situational hitting. And then maybe you pinch run for him right after that if he gets on base. But yeah, I think it makes sense. And I also think like something that Yachty, I hope is on board with, and I hope he understands is I think this is how catchers are just going to be handled from now on. Obviously, if you have a Hall of Fame guy, he'll probably get a little bit more starts. But look at teams across the league, and nobody's catcher is starting this many games except for Salvador Perez. And I would argue there's diminished returns there. So I
Yeah.
hope this is just the way that it goes. The Cardinals seem to be open to taking a more modern approach in the way they utilize their players. So I hope this is just the way it is.
Yep. Either way, this will be the last year that we're asking this question. So
Which is a bummer still.
Yeah,
I mean, who
yeah.
does I just love watching Yachty. So that also needs to be said is I love the man.
He just got announced as the head coach for oh shoot, it was like the Venezuelan winter
Winter
ball
ball, yeah.
team. Yeah, yeah, which is exciting. I love seeing him coach these what is it World Baseball Classic
Mhm.
teams, and just his involvement with the broader world baseball stage. I think is fantastic. He's made it pretty clear that he doesn't want to be a major league manager, but I don't know if he keeps doing these other um, coaching and management jobs. Wouldn't surprise me if some time removed from the majors makes him end up wanting to come back. I
Yeah,
think
and
we'd
you
all love to see him back at the Cardinals in some sort of coaching or special assistant to the
yeah.
GM or whatever it might be, right?
Yeah, you have to imagine that after he's done playing, the Cardinals are going to roll out the red carpet, and he's invited to every spring training in perpetuity. And if
Yeah.
he just wants to come and sit on the bench or do anything, he'll be welcomed back with open arms.
Well, he's made an interesting point about why he doesn't want to coach. Is that he doesn't feel he'd be able to make the decisions that a manager has to make in the moment that might hurt your team's chance of winning at that time,
Right.
but is better for the team in the long run. He considers himself too much of a in the moment fierce competitor to be able to have that broader view, which I do think is a very self aware thing to say.
Oh, I've
I
watched
think
this guy play for almost 20 years. I can co-sign that. Yes, I
yeah,
agree with that
yeah,
evaluation.
yeah. But maybe with time that may dull. That not his drive to win. I would be very surprised if that ever dulls. But his inability to manage that in the moment may evolve as he gets away from being a player. And I don't know, just something I was thinking about. Maybe he doesn't go right into coaching like a lot of these guys do once they retire, but he could go and hopefully just ball out somewhere and have a good time for quite a while and then return to the Cardinals. But yeah, no matter what, he's going to be at home openers. I mean, there's going to be he's going to be in the row of he's going to be on the wall in between Smith and Shane East and and Pujols. They're all going to be
Yeah.
in the retired numbers. So we're going to see them forever.
Yeah, in the past we've talked about the statues in front of Busch Stadium of Wainwright pitching to Yadier Molina. I
Yeah.
think everyone in St. Louis is on board with that. That should just be commissioned now.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I'm lobbying that Yachty, Wayno, if he retires, and Pujols, they just go into the Cardinal Hall of Fame next year. Let's not bother with
Yeah.
any delay, any sort of expectations of gaps. Let's just do it next year or at the last game of the season. Let's just introduce them into the Cardinal Hall of Fame. Who are we for? All right, well, let's go opposite of one of the oldest players in baseball. We did get a chance this spring to see some of our favorite prospects, and though none of them really made the big league roster, what was your takeaway on Nolan Gorman from spring?
I think we were watching a player press. I think we were watching a player who was probably told to some degree, hey, if you have a nice spring, you could make the big league club. And my God, he wanted to do that. He was doing everything he possibly could, swinging out of his shoes. And I think, you look at the numbers and you've watched his stuff from minor league baseball. He's a better hitter than we saw. I think we saw some good moments. It was just, I would say, from a fan's point of view, especially those of us who haven't seen him play minor league games or at least very often, seeing him over at second was nice. I don't think he is not Colton Wong or Tommy Edmond by any
Yeah.
means, but seeing that he can do it is really encouraging. It does look a little bizarre seeing a man that large playing second base. And there's also something. I mean, Colton Wong, I guess, is the only one I could really think of. But even Colton Wong doesn't have an arm as strong as Gorman, so I think that's kind of fun. And that I think that was encouraging. I will be very curious to see. I think if he has a hot start in AAA, would not be surprised if he's called up pretty quickly. But
Yeah.
again, that also depends on like what we talked about pitcher health and kind of how guys are able to extend, how many innings people are able to throw, and what bullpen needs look like. But yeah, I think it was that was the most we've ever got to see him play, at least on the big league club. And even though it wasn't all great, I think you can leave that feeling pretty encouraged and pretty, the hype train rolls on.
Yeah, I have no reason not to still be incredibly excited about Nolan Gorman and his future with the Cardinals. I think you're right. It's almost more roster dynamics and the addition of guys like Dickerson and Pujols, and just the need for some flexibility that resulted in him not being there. I think the Cardinals are very much a team that would rather have him take everyday at bats than serve in sort of a backup platoon role on the bench in St. Louis. And so either performance from guys like Nootbaar and even Edman or Sosa, I think if any of them falter and Gorman rakes in AAA like he has, then he'll be right back.
Yeah, I
Uh,
wonder, like, and I'm sure the Cardinals have a number or a point that they will become impatient with Edmund. But how poorly does Edmund have to hit for them to make that move? Because obviously he's dynamic around the
yeah,
field, and we know he can make some contact and he can run quite a bit. But I do wonder, is it if he sits around 200, is if he sits around 250, if he's just not taking walks. I'm sure that there is some type of qualifier that Mo and team have, and they're not going to let us know. But curious to see. I think Edmonds' play, like you were kind of alluding to, I think it'll have a lot to do with Gorman's
yeah.
future.
Yeah, and I think the clear and obvious competition for the leadoff spot this spring that I think and I'm hoping is going to Carlson
Still Carl.
is also an indication of the club's perspective on Edmonds' offensive capabilities. He does not have the OBP to be a leadoff man, not when we have someone like Dylan Carlson.
Right.
So yeah, and then there's always the health thing, right? One guy gets hurt, which will happen. Everything starts to slide up. So after Gorman, there's Juan Yepez, who was arguably even more hyped coming into spring because of his breakout last year. What do we think about Yepez now officially sent back down?
I mean, I think that the Cardinals were going to give him a shot pretty much no matter how spring went until Poole showed up. So
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to evaluate. He did not have a crazy good spring, but he looked like a professional hitter. He looks young. We know the power is there, but Pujols
he
kind
not
of took
only
his
looks
job.
young,
He
he is
is
young.
young,
Yeah,
but Pujols
he
kind of took
looks
his
old as
job.
hell, but he's very young. Yeah, yep.
So it's
Old man took his job.
I don't know if you could really evaluate, this decision other than like it is slightly disappointing. I've often complained about in the past when old players are taking away at bats from young players, especially when those young players are showing promise. But I think Cardinals fans understand this one. I mean, I think I understand this one. I guess it's really just disappointing that we're really not going to see Yepez until next year, at least on any real full time type schedule. That being said, I think Cardinals fans should also prepare themselves if they do decide to go for a John Means or if they do decide to augment the roster in some way. Yepez is probably really high up on that list as far as trade pieces,
Yeah,
especially with the DH being everywhere now. I would not be surprised if teams are calling on him already with him being sent down. I would be.
yeah, yeah. Yepez and Burleson, I think, are two very clear trade targets. I can't imagine the Cardinals will trade Gorman, and so then you go one slot down, and Yepez or like Walker,
Yeah.
but Yepez and Burleson seem like obvious trade pieces to me. I hope not. Obviously, well, I don't know. We need a pitcher, so I'd be cool with one of them being moved for the right guy. But I really want to see if Hez at the major league level with the Cardinals. I just want to see what it looks like, see how he does.
And I think there's something fun about just a guy kind of coming out of nowhere and
Yeah,
then contributing to your big league team. I mean, not the same player as Matt Carpenter, obviously, but how much fun was that? I remember when he was coming up, we were like, oh, this guy can walk. And then he comes up and leads the league in doubles and then starts
right.
hitting home runs and playing a good second base. I mean, that's just a lot of fun.
Yep. So Ben, spring takeaways. Who's your MV spring? what's your big takeaway from this last month?
Yeah, spring training numbers don't matter, right?
Right.
But my goodness, did
But
Paul
they do,
Goldschmidt.
Paul Goldschmidt.
I'll actually say both the Pauls. To
Yeah.
see Goldschmidt, I mean, the one thing, and again, training numbers don't matter. But if there's anything to criticize Paul Goldschmidt on, is that he's a slow starter. And
Yeah.
I think that it is very reasonable for Cardinals fans to feel pretty jazzed the fact that he is not starting slow at all. He came out of the spring, came out of spring hitting 500 with power. We got stories about new bats and weight
That's
distribution. We got
it's that
stories.
puck bat.
Yeah. I think it's pretty exciting. And especially the way that he played last year. I mean, the guy, he's just unbelievable. So I think Cardinals fans should reasonably be hyped about that, reasonably be hyped about Paul DeYoung. I think, and really, I should qualify this with I know nothing about anything. Um,
You don't need to say that. That anyone who listens to the show knows that.
I want to be very clear. I know nothing about anything, but I've watched a lot of Paul DeYoung at bats, like we all have. I've probably watched
Mhm.
like 80% of Paul DeYoung's major league at bats.
Yeah.
And something that you see and that can be frustrating about him is just how bad his timing can be and how
Yeah.
much on his front foot he can be, and just the swing balance just not being there. And I think something that I am really encouraged, but I'm being tentative about. I am not anointing him MVP of the season or anything like that. Was how he was really keeping his weight back, really getting the bat through the zone, and every time he touched the ball, it jumped off his bat. But seeing him have that stable base and bringing the bat through the plane without him throwing his weight forward was I, I want to be, I think a couple episodes I was saying give the job to Sosa,
Right.
but after seeing that, I mean, maybe tinkering with his batting stance and his swing 100 million times over the offseason and talking to every batting coach in all the land, maybe he locked into something. But there's obviously tremendous value in a shortstop that can play a very steady defense and hit 25 plus home runs. So I'm kind of getting a little excited about his spring and what he was showing us. So I don't know if that's silly, but anyways, to summate that all, let's go Pauls.
Give it to the Pauls. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to have any other takeaway from spring training than mostly Paul Goldschmidt. I mean,
Yeah.
what yeah, all the things he said. I don't need to repeat it, but he was. It's just he's so much fun, and I have the same tentative hype for Paul DeYoung. Um, he's done it before, not for entire seasons, but he's been great before. So let's see it. Let's see it for the whole season. I am calling it Paul DeYoung MVP.
Let's go. Of the league or just the Cardinals?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Uh, from a pitching standpoint, everything's been fine. Matt's had a really good performance here in the last day of spring. It's just been nice to see outside of the injuries that we had at the beginning of the spring training. Everyone has made it to the end. No new news about pitching health. So nothing crazy outside of some of these guys like Brooks and Palante, but otherwise everyone kind of performed like you'd want, which is that they got in their work and no one looked awful. No one looked necessarily over the top phenomenal, but I'm even less uh, interested in pitcher spring stats. I think there is a timing element to hitting, like you were talking about, that you can pull a little bit more from. But pitching, who knows what they're doing up there? They might just be up there trying to throw curveballs all day to practice it. So
Yeah. Can I hit the bottom left corner with a changeup today? Maybe.
yeah. Oops. No, I could not.
Yeah.
All right. Let's end this segment with some bold predictions for the 2022 Cardinals season. Ben, why don't you hit me?
Oh well, I mean, these are. I'm going to be talking through some very Cardinals red glasses right now, but
Of
I
course,
think.
this is a Cardinal podcast. We know all the possible bad outcomes. We know, okay,
All right.
and we are prepared to talk about them when they happen. But for now, this is for some teams. and maybe the Cardinals this year, this is the best we're gonna feel about the 2022 Cardinals. So let's stick with the bold predictions. What are your thoughts?
I think Miles Michaelis is going to come back into his own. That first year that we had him when he came back from Korea, he had a sub 3 ERA. He was using all of his pitches in the zone, not walking guys. I think he's going to take over as not a traditional ace because he doesn't have the strikeout stuff, but he's fine with that. He's going to use the defense. He's going to pitch over 200 innings. He's going to be healthy all year, and he's going to limit walks. The Cardinals needed so badly last year. I see him getting top 10 Cy Young votes this year. I think he's going to, like I said, eat up innings, and he's going to be the most valuable pitcher for the Cardinals this year. Book it,
Okay.
ship it, let's go. Um,
So I had a very similar one, but
oh,
not Michaelis.
okay.
But I like it. I definitely like the 34-year-old pitcher suddenly having the best season of his career,
He's
and
healthy.
yeah, I mean I like him, Lizard King baby. Dakota Hudson, he's back, he's healthy. In a similar way to what you're saying about Michaelis, where he's not going to be a traditional ace because of the strikeouts, I think his stuff plays up with the Cardinal defense behind him. He is young. We've only seen really the beginnings of his career. He comes back, and he is the most valuable pitcher on the Cardinals this year.
Why don't both of those things happen? That would be,
Sure, that'd
let's
be
just go that
great.
direction. My
Mazalak
other,
says that into his prayer beads every night.
yes, he does. My other guy that I'm going to pick, and this one's probably even less bold because I think the Cardinal Nation and especially the folks listening to this podcast are very high on Dill Carl coming into this next year. But I think Dylan Carlson is going to put up the second most WAR of any player on the Cardinals this year. I think he's going to steal 20 bases. I think he's going to hit 20 home runs. I think his outfield play is going to get better. And I think he's going to crush it in the leadoff position. I think he's going to slot in right below Paulie Goldschmidt as far as WAR. And like I said, become the second, if not a superstar, launch himself into star status, making an all-star team this year. I think he's going to really take a step forward, and we're going to just swim in that beautiful Cardinals outfield all year. That young, powerful defense forward with great offense Cardinals outfield, and it's going to be a blast.
I'll take it. I'll have seconds.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Yeah, I was also going to say Dylan Carlson is the best outfielder by WAR on the Cardinals this year. So you're going all the way past everyone and saying that he is going to be behind Goldie. He's going to be the best player on the Cardinals.
I do. I think he's going to. We saw him kind of tap into the power a little bit at the end of last year. We saw him taking his walks a little bit better at the end of last year. He's only had more time to season and marinate on that, and I'm expecting big things. I think he if there had to be a breakout candidate, and maybe people would argue he broke out a little bit last year, he's the guy I'm tabbing.
I love it. Okay, I'm
Also, Corey
going.
Dickerson hits 50 home runs. No, just kidding.
Albert Pujols breaks Barry Bonds' record and steals 20 bases.
There we go. Oh
Yeah,
no.
yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we'll see. We'll see. We're calling some big shots here, but I love it. So before we go into our next segment and talk about some more movement around the league, I want to take this moment to remind everybody that this podcast is supported on Patreon, patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. If you love the show and want to help it grow, want to support us, help us expand our operation here, check it out. Anyone who subscribes at any level will gain access to our Discord, where we are slowly building a community, a place to enjoy the Cardinals together. Games are about to start. We're going to be in there live chatting as games are happening. Really, really excited about that. So check it out. If you can't or are unwilling to support us via Patreon, totally understand. There's a lot going on in the world right now. What we would love is if you just take a few minutes to leave us a review on your favorite podcast player. It really does helps us show up higher on various lists as people search for podcasts. And we just love hearing from you. We like to know what you like about the show.
Or
On
don't like.
that, what's that?
Or don't like. Tell us
Or,
what we suck at.
yeah, just tweet at Samorka with anything that you don't like about Ben.
Yeah, thanks, dog.
Uh, don't don't say anything to me. I am fragile. Uh, I do want to take a moment to shout out uh, R. Perept, who left a review calling us spooky good, as well as a number of other things. Now, I did get a little scared reading this review, so I'm not appreciative of that. But thank you so much for your kind words. We also want to shout out Jenny Tab 05, who said saying finally, there's a podcast like us. I'd say finally, Jenny, we're here for you. So thank you for your wonderful words. We really appreciate it. And to anyone who is taking the moment to review us, we truly appreciate it. Ben, where can people find us online?
Yeah, make sure to check us out on Twitter at talkingaboutbirds. We're obviously tweeting constantly about baseball stuff, especially when the games get started. Can't wait for that. Just get the hype going around and share it all over the internets. We are slowly growing our Instagram account. You can follow us there at talkingaboutbirds. Give us likes and pokes and share stories and all that Insta stuff that people like to do. As I've been plugging recently, if you have any questions about Nate specifically, talkingaboutbirds at gmail.com. He has a very full life. He wants to share it with you, but he's a little shy. Ask him questions. He's here for you. Like I've said, pizza, homeowner. I think he's got a 5K coming up soon. Ask him these questions. He also likes video games. He has actually, let's plug The Short Game, another podcast that Nate hosts called The Short Game, where they're doing all kinds of fun things over there.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll be at the Cardinal 5K. If anyone's going to be there, there's a part where you get to run the warning track. I'm going to rob a few home runs while I'm out there. So, yeah, let me know if you're going to be there. It'd be fun to see some of you.
And, we also are very reliant upon word of mouth. Tell your Cardinals friends if you're enjoying this.
Tell your friends. Tell your enemies. Tell everyone. Spray paint. Street signs. Whatever you feel.
We're not encouraging that.
I am.
Respect your community.
Respect your community by sharing us with them. Rob a bank, scream our podcast name as you run out in a hail of gunfire. All of these things we fully endorse.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a step back.
Okay, so the spring training wrapped up, and we did get some final end of spring moves and movement and news around the league. So let's touch on that quickly. I think first of all, we've got to address a thing that we spent, of course, a bunch of time talking about last week, and then almost immediately, like within hours of our episode coming out, or within hours at least of us recording our episode, a lot of information came out about this very thing we were speculating about. So we had been wondering what the deal with Michael Conforto is. Why haven't the Cardinals gone for him, or anyone really, considering how strange it is? And as we've learned, he had a more notable shoulder injury than I think maybe we as fans were aware of. And he was having some real difficulty over the winter to really even showcase his ability to play baseball. By all accounts, he is recovered now. But I think you can imagine why a team would be skeptical to sign a guy who already has had up and down seasons. And you really don't want to sign a guy who also has a draft pick compensation tied to him when you're not even sure he is healthy. So he is healthy apparently now and has showcased to some teams who are showing interest. But I don't think we're going to see him sign until the summer after the draft when that pick, a piece of it drops off.
Yeah, and you'd have to think that that's going to work out really well for him. All things considered, him not getting a deal, him being injured, all that stuff. There's a very high probability that a team is going to find itself needing offense. he has a nice camp or whatever that's going or however he's going to kind of get warmed up and should do well. But at least that makes more sense because it really
Yeah.
seemed like Boris was just not doing anything for him.
Yeah. Very strange situation, but we've got some clarity now. So, speaking of injuries, I mean, I think you cursed him, Ben,
Oh
or
yeah,
just I'm beginning to think that City Field is haunted, or I don't know, but Degrom and Scherzer both injured. Degrom considerably so.
right.
Scherzer, it's really being downplayed, but he's definitely not going to make like an opening day start for the Mets. All of a sudden, this two-headed monster, the best rotation in baseball, is suddenly pretty rough with Taiwan Walker also is possibly hurt. So they are just um, already down to Chris Bassett. They're,
Chris Bassett, David Peterson, Tyler
yeah,
McGill. I mean, these are the guys that are going to be frontlining what should have been the first or second best rotation in baseball.
yeah,
And we haven't even played a game yet.
yeah. It's not great. And it's really just disappointing. It's easy and fun, and I think required to laugh at the Mets. But as a fan of baseball broadly, I want to see DeGrom pitch. I want to
Yeah,
see Scherzer pitch. I want to see two of the best guys ever, at peak capacity, even if they are on another team. So
A-
it's
and
frustrating. It's disappointing.
they're two very unique guys too. There isn't
Yeah,
really anyone else out there like Degrom or like Scherzer, stuff wise, attitude wise, the whole package.
two
So
different color eyes.
yeah, baseball is better with those two gentlemen. But so yeah, big bummer, no fun, hate it.
Yeah, hopefully at least Scherzer, it's a light hamstring issue.
Right.
You could see that not being a major problem if he can recover. But Degrom, I mean, it's just another in a string of issues that pulls the best pitcher on the planet constantly out of the game.
Right.
It's crazy. He'll still probably no. I was gonna say he's still probably gonna make it to the Hall of Fame, but if he continues like this, he may end up missing out, despite being one of the best peaks of all time. Um, we also saw, speaking of pitchers getting injured, former Cardinal great, I'm gonna call him friend of the pod, Lance Lynn, has injured his knee and is going to need knee surgery. I think we're all pretty excited about the White Sox. It's a pretty big blow to the start of the season. He's supposed to miss 4 to 6 weeks, but any sort of knee injury just feels like it can take a little while to come back from.
Yeah, knee. It makes me think of CC Sabathia. Big guy, fireballer, having knee issues. Definitely something you worry about. And it's really hard to tell how dependent is Lance on, on just pure velocity. But that's kind of the first thing you think of going when you're having lower body issues with the pitcher is the velocity is going to get down. That being said, he's a bit of a workhorse. He's come back from injuries in the past, so I hope that he could be successful. But yeah, I love Lance. He is one of my favorite post game interviewers, and maybe has my favorite pitching style in all of baseball. Here's 75% fastballs. Good luck.
Yeah, well, in a lot of ways, he's like a less Hall of Famey Max Scherzer.
Sure.
There was a couple some last minute trades that happened over the last week. The first one we want to talk about is the Oakland A's traded Sean Manaea to the Padres. This was a trade, like everyone knew Manaea was on the market and Montes also likely on the market. Now, Montes is a better pitcher than Manaea, but Manaea is no slouch. And some of the early buzz on this trade was that they really didn't pay that much. So they traded Adrian Martinez and Urbiel Angeles. I'm not quite sure how to say either of those names.
I think
Two,
I think you nailed it.
thank you. I think I nailed it too. For Manea. And I think early reaction from Cardinal fans was, what the hell, Mo? We need a starter. And this doesn't seem to have been a very high price. So I did a little bit of research to try to put this into perspective for Cardinal fans. And I want to hear your your take on it, Ben. Now, no two organizations are the same. When you can't simply compare one uh, um, farm team directly to another. But to keep this simple, I went and found on the MLB.com prospect rankings, a very neutral prospect ranking site. I try to find what would be the equivalent trade if we just took the rankings of the people that the Padres traded to Athletics. What would that be for the Cardinals? Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay, so
Could the
in equi-
Cardinals have made this deal?
yeah, if the price was exactly the same,
Yeah.
it was like your 10th and 18th ranked prospect, basically. So for the Cardinals on MLB.com, it was Alec Burleson and Ryan Holgate. Uh, so how would you have felt if the Cardinals had traded Burleson and Holgate for
It's like
Manea?
the biggest duh of all time. You're going and getting a guy that can give you, possibly 200 innings. His number one pitch is a sinker. He's a lefty. I mean, he's kind of similar to Steven Matz, the guy we went out and got.
Yeah.
Not to mention he's got good hair and good tattoos, so that's just added bonus right there. So yeah, I think you make that deal 100 times out of 100. I would even throw in a Junior Fernandez or something else to spice it up and make sure that it got done. But I think Cardinals fans they have every right to be angry at the fact that they did not go for this deal, especially finding out that that was the price that it costed. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, Mane
Now,
is good.
trades aren't done in a vacuum like
Sure.
that. There's the relationship between GMs, individual scouting reports. Manea struggled a little bit in the back half of 2021. His second half FIP was over 4, barely, like 4.09 or so. I saw some concern about a reduction in velocity. Uh, Remember, the Athletics are generally well known for making good trades, so they also had to accept this trade. So it does make you wonder, is there something going on under the hood that we are not aware of? And this was their best offer. I don't know, but it certainly seems even like a less effective Manea or a potentially injured Manea still would be worth this cost as much as we are excited about Burleson. I agree, but we'll never know. I just thought it'd be interesting to put it in a little bit more
Yeah.
context for
Yeah. And
what the Cardinals would give up.
I'll just say it again. The Cardinals need more pitching.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be that high quality, but they need somebody who can pick up the ball every fifth day. They need to augment the rotation. I'm going to keep saying that they need help there.
Yeah. The other big trade is the White Sox traded Craig Kimbrell to the Dodgers for AJ Pollock. Very interesting trade
Yeah.
that, going into this offseason, it was pretty well known or pretty well assumed that the White Sox, even though they're competing, favorites to win their division by a mile, were going to trade one of the best relievers of all time, mostly because they have a pretty deep bullpen already. Liam Hendricks, they just signed Graveman. They had it to spare. But I didn't really expect it to go to the Dodgers, let alone for AJ Pollock, who's been a pretty good outfielder for quite a long time now. What was your take on this trade, Ben?
I thought it was a slam dunk for both teams. I think it makes sense for both teams. Obviously, the White Sox have some injury issues and just some personnel issues as far as the outfield goes. They have Andrew Vaughn, who's not really an outfielder, Gavin Sheets, who's not really an outfielder, and Eloy Jimenez, who can't really pick it. So it makes a lot of sense for them to go out and get this guy. He hits lefties really well, and he's had a great season and a half against righties. Not to mention the money between these two players pretty much negates itself. And like you
Yeah.
said, it gives the super team that is the Dodgers, they gives them the luxury of putting Blake Trinan, who would be a closer for every single other team in baseball. Yeah, every other team, because
Yeah.
he is so good. His I like watching him pitch. It just seems like he's cheating because the way that his sinker moves does not make sense to my brain. But yeah, you get to slot that guy back a little bit. I would say the only thing that I found curious about it is we know how the Dodgers like to use their bullpen. They like to be dynamic and put guys in positions to succeed wherever that might be. And we know Craig Kimbrell is Give me saves. I want saves. I only do the ninth inning, only save situations. I'm pretty sure he's going for like the Hall of Fame track there. He's just trying to
Right.
get that number as high up as he wants. But also, like, there are some things out, I don't know even really how to talk about this and sound somewhat intelligent, but some pitchers just thrive in those situations. I think Kimbrel's kind of like that. We saw, he got moved over to the White. He had a great first half with the Cubs last year, closing out games, gets moved to the White Sox, and Liam Hendricks is still closing, and he kind of falters. And we know there's huge variability that comes with closers, but as Nate said, he's one of the best of all time. I'll be curious to see how they use him, if it's strictly save situations, and what he looks like.
I do believe they intend to have him as the closer after letting Kinley walk to the Braves. We both agree they did not need to do this, but they are a super team, so why not?
Why
Just
not?
trade one of your excess all-star level players
Yeah.
for maybe one of the best closers of all time.
And
Even though he might look kind of stupid every time he leans forward and hangs out his little
his
arm,
little pirate
his
perch
little
thingy. The other thing,
pirate.
like, I imagine like a little parrot sitting on there. That's what I
Yeah,
always think of.
okay. I hadn't, and I will forever now.
Yeah, or like a hawk or something. But the
Sure.
other funny thing about or just the way in which the Dodgers are put together, it's like, oh, did they go put their all-star Chris Taylor out there now? Did they go put
Yeah.
their highly, highly touted prospect Gavin Lux out there, or move things around and have Gavin Lux playing second base? Like it
Stupid
only,
Dodgers.
yeah, they give away a all-star player, not give away, but they trade away an all-star player, and their position player talent maybe gets better somehow. It's just the Dodgers being the best franchise in baseball, the best
Yep.
ran.
Yeah. Boo.
Yeah,
Still can't beat Matt Adams though.
here we
All
go.
right. Uh, so last thing on our list here, Vin, you wrote this, and I'm glad you put this here
Yeah.
because something was announced recently
Yes.
called Home Run Derby X. And I saw it get announced on
Yep.
Twitter, and I thought that's strange. So I clicked the link, and the link was broken and led me to a dead page. And I thought, okay, classic, good job. And then I promptly forgot all about it.
Yeah.
You seem to know what Home Run Derby X is, so why
Yep.
don't you tell me?
Yeah, and I'm going to read off some MLB.com copy. So I'm just going to kind of get everybody on the same page, and I'm curious to see your reaction. I will say I am excited. I think that this is a very good idea, and I
Okay,
think
all
more
right.
things like this should happen, and MLB should be backing and financing and making it happen. So,
1 in 10 balls explodes on impact.
then people just have to donate their leftover baseball players for this sport to
Yep.
happen. So, yeah, MLB Home Run Derby X. What a stupid name that is. I will admit that it is a bad name. They could definitely come up with something better. It is a global baseball tour making stops in London, Seoul, South Korea, Mexico City, and one other city that I forgot to write down, apparently. But it is going to be represented by 4 different teams, the oldest teams in baseball: the LA Dodgers, Boston Red Sox, Chicago Cubs, and the Yankees. Those teams are going to be represented by Adrian Gonzalez for the Dodgers, which has to be a punch in the stomach to Padres fans.
Yeah.
But that's the way it goes. Johnny Gomes for the Red Sox, Giovanni Soto for the Cubbies, and Nick Swisher for the Yankees. And
Nice.
essentially, what is going to happen is they're going to go to these different places and do a weird tournament style home run derby. So, the actual, and I should read this quote because I do find it funny. Inspired by the success and simplicity of the home run derby the day before the MLB All Star game, which we all know when that happens. Why did they have to qualify that?
Yeah.
Home Run Derby X has been developed with the goal of attracting new audiences to baseball, creating high energy live event experiences and opportunities for digital storytelling. Wow. That sounds really boring. But here's kind of the quick overview of the rules. Hitters will get to swing at 25 pitches and take up to 10 of them, with the opportunity to earn points by hitting targets placed 160 feet away from home plate and 2 beyond the outfield fences. Similar to the mini games in the legendary video game MVP Baseball 2005, shout out, best game ever.
Yeah. Wow. Nice.
Opposition will have players in the outfield who can earn points by catching baseballs that don't make it over the fence. And these things, if you hit a home run, they kind of each home run you get more points if you do it in a row, and each
Nice.
catch you get more points if you do that in a row as well. Each event will feature a winner, and the tour will culminate in a knockout tournament to determine the Home Run Derby X Tour champions at the final event. So we know those guys that I listed earlier; those are like the big names, quote unquote, big names that are attached to the All Stars or whatever that are attached to the event. Teams can offer up minor league players. That's going to all kind of filter its way out of who's going to be
Okay.
participating in it. But really, it is a home run derby tournament global thing that's happening, and we're going to see some old mans cranking some juiced up balls over the fence. I, for one, am really for this. I would buy
Yeah.
a ticket if it was coming to Denver. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like it. Any sort of outreach program like this, I think, is great. I do kind of question, like you were already, who that copy was for. In that it had to explain that the home run derby is before the All Star game, but also references a video game from 2005. So I don't know who this is for. But hey, great! I love it. Yeah. Why not? Right? Why not
And I
do
could
more and more of
see
this?
if Home Run Derby X Tour or whatever the hell it's called, if that comes to your city and you have friends or a spouse or whoever who's not super into baseball, I bet you could convince them to go to this because I imagine there's going to be a DJ, fireworks, pyrotechnics, and there's going to be a
Yeah.
lot of swagger for the players. Um, if I remember anything about Adrian Gonzalez's playing career, he's going to bring a bunch of he'll probably take a bit of a heel or kind of be poking people a little bit and have a lot of fun with that. So I think it's going to be
It,
fun. I think like you were kind of getting at. I applaud the MLB for trying something interesting and putting some
yeah.
cash behind it and kind of seeing what happens.
Well, Ben, I'll tell you what. The smell of fresh dinger in the air will be will be
God,
strong.
I hate that. Because anytime when you say that, it's making me think of the Rockies mascot whose name is Dinger, and now I'm just
Yeah.
smelling a dinosaur.
Yep. Maybe that's what the dinger smell is just like old mascot helmet, you know.
Yeah, I do know. Thank you.
Just burn some of your socks. That's our
Yeah.
candle.
Ugh.
Hmm. If you love our show, shove some socks into a cup and light them on fire. That's the Talking About Birds candle.
That
Now available on our store.
in your drawers.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up and move into our final segment of the day. This week we are doing a slightly different style of game. Instead of me just challenging Ben with stupid random things, we're gonna play a little game together. Something we're calling Draft Day Heroes and Hatchlings Edition. This is how this is going to work. Ben and I are going to draft from the Cardinals roster, the 28 man, and then anyone after it. So it's sort of two different groups of players that we can pull from. We're going to draft 6 total players, 6 each, and 3 of them have to be from the 28 man. 3 of them have to be from not the 28 man. I'm going to flip a coin here. We'll see who goes first, and we're going to go back and forth. And at the end of the year, whichever group of 6 has the most Fangraphs WAR will be the winner. We'll also look at overall, and then we'll look at who had the best 28 man draft and who had the best non 28 man draft. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me. Yeah. And the only other thing I want to throw out there is like, let's say I pick Tommy Edman and somehow Tommy Edman puts up a negative WAR this year. That subtracts from my total. It'll,
Yes.
however that plays out. So if we pick a rookie, it's more likely to be a rookie or a guy not on the big league roster. Or let's say Palante, and Palante gets blown up. You get all that negative WAR.
Yep. So I've got a screen here. I don't
He's flipping a coin on a computer, ladies and gentlemen.
know. I don't have any money. All right, Ben,
Yep.
heads or tails?
I'll go heads. Most exciting thing in podcasting, and Ben
Oh,
wins.
yes.
Ben wins. I do
Damn.
appreciate that it actually made the coin flipping noise.
I
That
do
was
too.
good.
I hadn't done it until that
You
moment,
didn't
so
even test it. Wow.
I didn't even test. We did it live. All right, Ben, you have the first overall pick. Uh, who you got?
I mean, this has got to be pretty easy, especially when I'm looking over this roster. I'm going to have to go with my boy, Big Paul. He's coming out hot. Possible MVP candidate this year. Give me Paul Goldschmidt.
Yeah, I think there was two obvious choices for at least the highest floor
Yeah.
here. And you're going with Paul. I think I probably would have done that as well with the first overall pick. So I'll just go quick here. My second pick, he's got that hot corner, Nolan Arenado.
Wow.
I think he's amped up. He thinks the offensive production he had last year, while great, was not good enough, and we know he's got that high floor with the defense at third base. So I gotta go
Yeah.
with Nolan Arenado for my first pick.
Yeah. I think that's smart. I was going to say him as well, but now I get to go with for the boys, Big Daddy Tyler. Tyler O'Neill, gimme him. I mean, this guy's going to put up, he might go 30-30 this year. Who knows what he's going to do? He
well,
also
he
might strike out 200 times, but he is going to go off.
Yeah. Well, I think we're clearly baking in some of the risk here because last year Tyler O'Neill led the Cardinals in Fangraphs WAR
Right.
by a half a WAR. So he put up 5.4, and then after him was Paul Goldschmidt at 4.9. And so we both went with number 2 and number 3, where Arenado had 4.0. For
Yeah,
the season, we took both of them over O'Neill, I think, because of that risk.
that decade of production behind those other two players definitely makes me feel a lot more confident. But yeah, we'll see. I'll
Yeah.
still bet on Tyler.
I was really hoping for that first overall pick in order to pair, because I figured this is probably how this was going to go. I almost took for the boys Tai a number 2, but I'll take the safe one with
All right.
Arenado. So with my next pick, this is where it actually starts to get interesting, right? Because now we're really starting to call who's that breakout, who's
Right.
taking the next step up, and I got to go with our previous bold prediction. I got to go Dill Carl here, Dylan
Oh
Carlson.
yeah,
Come on
that's
down,
the move. That's the move. I thought
yeah.
you were going to go somewhere else, but that's the move.
I,
That's what I would have done.
I almost, I'm not going to say, but
Yeah.
I've got to go Dylan Carlson for all the reasons we talked about earlier in the episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, part of me really wants to take a picture here, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to kind of lean on what I believe is going to happen. I think that Bader's got a contractor
Yeah.
under him. He's going to be healthy. He's going to put up big numbers, war numbers with the defense alone. So give me Harrison Bader as my final pick for the big Cardinals, the heroes and hatchlings. That my last hero is Harry Bader.
Yeah. Okay. That's who I almost took instead of Carlson, but because that floor there with Bader, you've got that defense. I like it. Okay. For the last of my heroes, this is tough. This
Hmm.
is tough.
Well, I'm going to kind of think out loud for you. I'm guessing you're I mean, Giovanni Gallegos makes some sense. Wayno makes
Yeah.
some sense. Miles makes some sense.
Yeah.
There's obviously DeYoung if you're buying the comeback.
Yeah. I've been going between Wayno and DeYoung, and I think I'm going to go with Wayno put up almost 4 last year, 3.9. I'm not expecting him to replicate that. In fact, we both just picked other pitchers to have the best season. But for this game, I'm taking the safer bet, and I am going to go with Adam Wainwright
Wow.
for my last pick.
Wow.
I think Gallegos is going to have a great season, but I can't gamble on any one reliever like
Yeah.
that. Not with these stakes on the line.
Oh,
All right, so we've both completed our heroes section, pulling from the 28 man. You've got Paul Goldschmidt, Tyler O'Neill, and Harrison Bader. Great three. I've got Nolan Arenado, Dylan Carlson, and Adam Wainwright.
brave.
Yeah. Now, for the minors,
The
who we got?
hatchlings for the minors, and I'm going to take this guy purely because I think he's going to come up very quickly, and I think he's going to produce enough to be relevant. Give me Brendan Donovan.
Wow, you're going straight to Brendan Donovan. All
And that is
right.
purely he's going to come up and War's accounting stat. He's going to come up and accumulate right away. I think.
Right. Okay. Okay. Uh, well, then I am going to take. I'm going to go with Nolan Gorman.
Yeah, that's
I think
smart.
we both already talked about why he's coming up. We both think he'll be up sooner rather than later, and I think playing second base, we'll see some good defense. But he's gonna hit the ball and win me this game. All right, your next pick.
Well, that's definitely who I wanted to take. So I'm obviously, not happy about that. But I guess I'll survive. I think I'm going to have to go with somebody who I expect to be up again. I think he's going to lock in his control issues. Everything's going to be happy. Give me Johan Oviedo.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I thought about him. Um, yeah, we both are big fans of him. I think he is going to be a big part of the Cardinals for a long time.
He
I'm not as
also
sold on his this year, though.
he also could be somebody who subtracts quite a bit of WAR from my in-year total. So we'll see how that goes.
Pitcher's risky.
Yes, they are.
Well, I'm just gonna keep going real quick. I'm going Juan Yepez. Between
Yeah.
him and Gorman, one of those two,
Yeah.
I'm getting some good quality production from.
I
All
hate
right.
to say it, but that's probably smart. So good job, Nate.
What's your last pick?
Oh, this one is tough. My last pick is going to have to be. Oh no, I don't know. Not Spangenberg.
I was worried you were going to take my pick.
Man, I want to take another bat. I think I'm gonna buy because I've been leaning into the Alec Burleson breakout all spring training. I'm gonna say Alec. He's gonna get some big league at bats and he's going to impress.
Yeah. Love Alec Burleson as well. Okay. With my last pick, I'm going to go with.
Bum bum bum.
I think this guy's getting called up. We're going to need him. We've talked about why we're going to need him. I think he's ready. Matthew Liberator, come on down. You are my last pick.
Wow.
Either the bullpen spot starts by the end of the season. I think he's going to accumulate some and really help put my team over the edge and crush Ben's team of players that I love, but am now forced to hate.
Well, you lost the draft in the first half, so I'm not even really worried about it.
Wow, by picking like your favorite players. Nolan Arenado, Adam Wainwright, and Dylan Carlson.
Yeah, you lost.
Okay. I hope we both win.
Wow, wouldn't that be great?
So we'll check in on this time by time throughout the year. And I guess we hope that they all do well. But personally, I hope that mine do slightly better than yours.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going to be obnoxious when one of those three kids comes up and does well.
Yeah.
I definitely won't bring that up on the podcast, and I won't be annoying about it, I swear.
If you have thoughts about how you would have drafted differently than how we just did, tweet us at talkaboutbirds. We'd love to hear your hot takes and your hot picks for the 2022 season.
Yeah, hashtag heroes and hatchlings.
Hashtag heroes and hatchlings.
There we
go. And with that, that will be the end of this episode. Again, we did it. We're here. Happy opening day. I can't believe it's finally here. I guess until next week, go Cardinals.
Let's go. bop, beep, bop,
Do
beep,
do
bop,
do.
beep, bop, beep, bop. Did you get a haircut?
No,
Oh, well,
not
it
since the
looks
last
worse
time.
today.
Yeah, that's fair. Um, it's an ever evolving level somewhere between bad and and worse. Yeah, but now we're on camera. Let me just do things that make no difference here. Okay.
I'd like this to be the intro of the episode, irrelevant to whatever plans you think you had.
All right, here we go.